Hey there, it's Lynnette Khalfani-Cox, the Money Coach. I am the co-founder of AskTheMoneyCoach.com and Money Coach University. Today, I want to share with you a very special rule that will help you to become a more successful budgeter and a more accurate budgeter. This rule is one that I call the 20% rule. And essentially, it's a way for you to figure out what is really going on with your spending, even when you think that you've nailed the numbers and gotten every single category of your expenses down on paper. Doesn't matter if you're doing your budget on good old black and white with a pen and paper, or if you're using a spreadsheet to better track your income and your expenses. The reason I want you to use the 20% rule and how you do it is actually very simple. The 20% rule goes like this. You take the number that you came up with when you looked at your expenses, whatever that total was, and you add 20% to it. In other words, you're boosting the number that you think on paper that you're truly spending every single month. Now, let's use some examples here, some rough numbers. If you added up all of your monthly bills and you saw that there were, say, $3,000 worth of monthly expenses, I want you to add 20% to that. 20% of $3,000 is $600. So that means your new monthly total would be $3,600 showing, not $3,000. Let's say your bills are $5,000 a month. Well, you should be adding another $1,000 on top of that to show $6,000 total in true monthly spending. Now, some of you might be thinking, whoa, this sounds like way too much. I know I am not spending an extra 20% on top of what I've already accounted for. I looked at my expenses very closely. I tracked everything, and I know this is a really spot on number. Here's the problem with that, and here's why I have yet to see a single person, I mean, not even one, who did not have a need to pad their budget and to increase their monthly expenses, what they thought they were spending, by at least 20%. Some people have more than that, but the 20% rule is a really good estimate. And here's why. It's because life happens to all of us, every single one of us, without exception. Again, if you're the exception to the rule, I want you to let me know. But let me tell you what I mean by life. It's an acronym that refers to the ways in which your budget can get out of whack without you even realizing it. What does this acronym stand for? The L in life stands for listed items in your budget that are actually undercalculated. Case in point, let's say you have a cell phone bill and you are with a major carrier, Verizon or AT&T or whomever. You're thinking, okay, I'm writing down my monthly payment plan or the amount that they're charging me. It's $49.99 a month. It's $79.99 a month, whatever. You're going by the numbers, the basic numbers that you know your payment is, or your plan, what it costs every single month. But wait a minute, have you factored in excess usage, additional charges, roaming, other fees, taxes? What might seem like it's a $79.99 a month bill might really be $100 a month. You've undercalculated those bills. Ditto for utilities. Depends on which part of the country in which you live. Does it get really hot in the summertime? Extra hot. And you're thinking, okay, well, my air conditioning bill is normally, $75 a month. Well, if it's blazing hot outside in triple degree temperatures, I'm guessing you might up that air conditioning quite a bit. Same is true for the winter time. If it's freezing cold, you might have a tendency to want to put the heat on inside the house a lot more, right? So you might have certain expenses that you have in fact accounted for. You did the right thing. You listed them in your budget. But in reality, this is part of life. That L, the listed items in your budget, were actually undercalculated, sometimes vastly undercalculated. That's one of the reasons why you need to pad your budget and use the 20% rule. Now, the I in life stands for impulse purchases. Okay? A lot of us get seduced by these. We have absolutely no intention of spending, but yet the money comes out of our wallets. Or in some cases, you might be passing by a store, see a sale sign in a window, you walk in there, next thing you know, you've spent money that you didn't intend to. You could be working on the job, on your laptop, commuting. You have your smartphone or your cell phone, your device, your tablet in your hand, and all of a sudden a pop-up ad happens on some screen that you're looking at. The next thing you know, you're shopping and you're telling yourself, oh, but it's a deal. If there's a sale going on or something like that. It may be true, but nevertheless, that was some kind of an unplanned purchase that you made on impulse. And again, that impulse spending, that unplanned purchase affects your budget. Thus, the need to pad your budget and to apply the 20% rule. Then the F in life stands for forgotten bills or expenses. Now, again, I walked you through a process where I told you to make sure you accounted for every single bill, everything in the regular recurring category, things that were irregular or annual or semi-annual, and things that were specific and tied to your lifestyle, right? Remember that? Well, not everybody remembers everything the first time around. That's why when I sit down with my coaching clients, I literally take them through a laundry list of things, and invariably, not a single coaching client I've ever had has on the very first time remembered and accounted for, especially if they did it on their own, every single expense. They always have some kind of forgotten bills. Maybe it was their membership fees. Maybe it was subscriptions. Maybe it was the books that they buy, the magazine subscriptions that they have. Maybe it's the donations that they make to charitable organizations around the holiday season. Maybe it's the annual cookie drive that they participate in, or that their kids belong to some kind of a club and they have to pay extra fees for those activities. You can forget about a whole host of bills until those bills are staring you right in the face. And I don't want you to do that, but it's common human nature to forget about bills that are not regular, recurring, or monthly bills, right? So it could be anything. Some of you know that you give to your church. You might give tithes and offerings, but some faith-based communities have special drives or special fundraisers, things of that nature, and they call upon you to give even more. Well, maybe you already accounted for a certain level of giving, a certain level of tithes, a certain level of offering, but those extra drives, and it could be from within or outside of a church, I'm just using that as an example to show you that a whole host of forgotten bills or unexpected things can emerge. Now, the E in life stands for emergencies, or things that you totally don't plan for and that come out of the blue, but that have to be attended to immediately. Some of these emergencies are dire and need to be paid for on the spot. If you're out on the road, for instance, and you're stuck on the middle of the highway and you don't have AAA, for example, but you have to pay a tow truck driver to get you off of that busy highway, well, if you don't have the cash in your bank account, and if you're not using a debit card, chances are you're going to whip out a credit card. Now, how long is that debt going to linger? How long is it going to stay with you? If you don't have the cash to be able to pay it off immediately, probably that debt will stick around for a good long time. It's part of the reason so many Americans have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt. Many of them started off with all the best of intentions. They didn't mean to charge on their credit cards, but it just a little by little by little, it crept up over time. Very common phenomena, especially as you start to earn more money, you start to spend more money. Economists call it income creep. Well, by the same token, some people are sort of, I won't say caught, but they seem to get more caught up in or more susceptible to a whole series of emergencies. Have you ever noticed that that has ever happened to you? When one thing happens, it seems like a second and a third thing right on top of each other. Sometimes people say, oh, it's a bad, spell of luck. or I'm going through a rough patch. The same time that somebody might, have their car get stolen or damaged in an accident or something will be the same time that, the spouse talks about potentially divorcing them, or the boss is going through a round of layoffs, or, their body might start to feel like it's breaking down, and you might have some kind of medical situation or an emergency to deal with. My point is, all of us have to confront the issues that life throws at us. And if you want to be a successful budgeter, trust me on this point, guys. Take it from me. Please factor into your budget an additional 20% on top of the expenses you've already listed. By taking part in this and by using the 20% rule, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is if you set aside or plan for an additional 20% worth of expenses, you'll have an extra pot of money over here that we can later decide what to do with. I'm betting you're going to want to put it aside in savings and help you to build for wealth building purposes or to plan better for emergencies. Because when it comes to savings, you actually need a couple of savings accounts. Now, you'll remember in this budgeting course that I told you about adding a savings category. You may or may not have gotten to that part of the lesson yet, but we're going to break it down a little bit further for you and talk about the types of savings accounts that help people to become more successful savers and more successful budgeters. For now, though, guys, hear me on this and learn this one lesson. To become a better, more successful budgeter, you must use the 20% rule.